All right, we've got all of the chicken done. It's sitting in the oven, keeping warm. It's gonna give us the perfect time to work on our pan sauce. While I'm doing that, I also wanted to mention, I've got a pot of water getting over here. I'm gonna make some noodles to go along with this. This dish works well with spaghetti, with elbow macaroni even. It's so good, it doesn't matter what the pasta is. You can also make rice. In fact, sometimes I'll make a nice carrot risotto. You know what, I'll post that recipe to my website as well. In case you have a question, go to my website, Cook with Tom, and you'll find my recipe for carrot risotto, which goes great with this dish. But we're gonna make our pan sauce. In the bottom of this pan, there's this, what's called fond. Fond is a fancy way, it's a fancy French word that means foundation. It's the foundation of the sauce. All that flour that we put on the outside of our chicken, that as well as some brown bits, little pieces of chicken, have stuck to the bottom of the pan, which is another reason why you don't want to use a non-stick pan, because the fond is not going to stick to the bottom of your pan. But we've got all that there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add one whole diced shallot. Now, I diced this the same way that I did in my pot roast recipe, where you cut off the end, the stem end, you cut it down the axis, peel it, slice it very thinly and, across the horizontal, and then vertically slice it as well, and then you make these nice little dices. Did the exact same thing here with these particular shallots, and I'm just going to go ahead and add these right to this pan. I want to add these shallots first because it'll do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to help to start to loosen the brown bits on the bottom of our pan. But number two, it's going to take the sugars that are in the shallots and caramelize them, and also neutralize some of the enzymes that cause the shallot to break down and get that oniony scent or oniony in your eye that makes you cry and makes it taste kind of bitter. So we want to get those done very first, because number one, it's not going to get hot enough as it is once the water's in there to caramelize the sugars or brown the sugars. But it will if we let it in the pan all by itself. Those have had enough time, they're nice and translucent, they're starting to turn a little brown. So we'll take and add a cup of white wine. Love that sound. I use Chardonnay. The reason I use Chardonnay is it's aged in oak barrels, and I like the flavor that oak gives to this particular sauce. What we're making is called a beurre blanc. It's again, another fancy French word. It means butter and white, coming from the white for the white wine, and then beurre for the butter, which we're going to add in a little bit. Gonna let this sit for a while, gonna slowly stir with the spatula, with this part of the spatula down on the pan. What that does is that helps loosen all that fond that's sitting in the bottom of our pan to help make a fantastic pan sauce. Also, while this is sitting here, we're gonna add the juice from one lemon. We need the juice from a lemon because that's gonna make the sauce just acidic enough so that when we add the butter, that actually helps the butter to solidify a little bit and thicken our sauce. Kind of a strange thing, but what happens in a beurre blanc is you add the butter and you whisk it and you whisk it, and what that does is that incorporates air bubbles, and as the proteins in the butter start to straighten out and form a little bit of a grid, by whisking it, air bubbles get trapped in that grid and help create a creamier, thicker, and looser, more airy sauce that really is the mark of a great beurre blanc. Now, I should mention, if you're worried about alcohol, you can actually make beurre orange, if you will, with just straight orange juice. In fact, I make it with orange juice all the time, and I love the combination of orange juice and butter. It goes really well for this dish. Instead of a cup, add a cup and a quarter of orange juice, but you'll add the same amount of butter, you'll add the same amount of everything else. All you gotta change is just increase the orange juice a little bit, because you want the orange juice to reduce down just a little bit more than you would the white wine, because you'll end up with a much better flavored dish that way. In fact, I've been known just to take straight orange juice concentrate, and they traditionally call for reconstituting something like 3 or 4 times, whatever that cup is. I'll just take the orange juice concentrate, dump it in, and then I'll put one of those cups in. So I'll essentially just double the amount of liquid in it, and that makes for a great beurre orange, if you will. This is starting to get nice and boily, if you will. It's allowed to reduce all the brown bits have come up off the bottom of the pan, have worked their way into our sauce. And so what I'm now going to do is take and add this butter. This is 4 tablespoons of butter that I've chopped up into a bunch of different little pieces. So I'm going to take and add this butter one at a time, making sure I grab my whisk and whisking with each introduction to get those air bubbles in. You gotta whisk this stuff for a while. In fact, I sometimes will switch arms and use my non-dominant arm to whisk this, because it takes a while. Your arm will definitely get a workout doing this. This sauce looks and smells delicious. I'm going to take just a little bit, taste it, and need just a little bit salt. But other than that, this is just perfect. It is going to go great over the top of our chicken. I'm going to take this and move this to a back burner for now, and just let that simmer like on a low. But I'm going to transfer our pasta water up to the front, because that's what we're going to talk about next. It can be hard to make pasta where we live. The reason being is the water is really hard. Not only that, but the water can, in certain areas, have a higher pH than just the normal 7 that you would get, or even lower than that, because of the limestone deposits that the water tends to flow through. The problem with higher pH water is it tends to break down the cell structures, so that starch that's inside the pasta leaks out into the water, making sticky pasta. So there are 2 tricks. You know, the first thing people will tell you is add salt. It increases the boiling point and makes it so that it solidifies faster, so you don't have to worry about starches. It's dead wrong. In fact, you could add the amount of salt you would have to add to this water to raise it 1 degree would be like a cup of salt in order to get a real increase in the amount of solubility, so that it would increase the boiling temperature. So just do yourself a favor. Grab maybe 3 teaspoons of vinegar. That's all it takes. That's going to lower your pH, and it's going to keep your noodles from sticking. Trust me, it works. So we're going to get, this water is almost to temperature. I do, however, like to add salt to my water. I've got these handy dandy little salt tablets. It's about a teaspoon of salt per tablet. So we'll add a couple of teaspoons of salt into there. Once this comes up to temperature, we're just going to add our pasta and let it cook like it says on the instructions on the box, 10 to 15 minutes. Our noodles are stick free. It is time to plate. What I like to do, with spaghetti, I like to just grab a handful. That's probably too much. About that much, pull it out, make sure it's dry. Put it on the plate, give it a little twist like that. Throw one of our Saltimbocca cutlets on top of the plate. Take some of our pan sauce and spoon it right over the top. In fact, I may drizzle a little bit around the plate here just to make it look good. And then last but not least, that sage that we had earlier, going to put that right on top. I'm Tom, this is Cook with Tom. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, go to my website, cookwithtom.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions. See you next time.